Hey everyone, this is your stimulus check update, second stimulus check update, and stimulus package update for Thursday, October 22nd. This video is for those of you on SSI, SSDI, Social Security, VA benefits, and for anyone else wondering about the second stimulus check and the stimulus package negotiations. In this video, I'll be going over the following topics. First off, the Senate skinny bill was voted on yesterday. Next, there was a New York Times and Siena College poll that showed that there's a lot of Americans that support another stimulus package. Nancy Pelosi's deadline for passing a stimulus before the election has passed. What does that mean? President Trump talked about whether the Senate would support a $2 trillion stimulus bill if he can broker a deal with Nancy Pelosi. And last, I want to talk about how close we are to a stimulus package deal. Thank you once again for watching. For those of you that are subscribed to my channel, welcome back. And for those of you that haven't subscribed, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified each and every time I upload a new video. And if you find this content helpful, be sure to hit the like button so that YouTube will share this video with others like you. Yesterday, the Senate voted on another skinny bill that was pretty much like the previous skinny bill. $500 billion, no stimulus checks, PPP funding was included, unemployment benefits were included, and there was some funding for coronavirus testing. However, like the previous skinny bill, this one failed in the Senate as no Democrats supported it and not even all the Republicans supported it. So once again, the skinny bill was voted on yesterday and the skinny bill failed. There really isn't much more to talk about on the skinny bill, so I'm not going to spend any more time on it. So the New York Times and Siena College had a poll that was asking the American people if they supported a $2 trillion stimulus bill or not. And 72% of the respondents actually supported a $2 trillion stimulus bill. The poll was based on responses from 987 respondents that was conducted during October 15th through the 18th, according to the New York Times. So, as I think many of you already know, 72% of Americans support a stimulus bill, so this is a very popular thing. Most Americans want another stimulus package to be passed. A $2 trillion stimulus bill would include $1,200 stimulus checks, unemployment benefits, PPP funding for small businesses, money for coronavirus testing and tracing, money for schools, money for state and local governments, as well as many other provisions and things to boost the economy that seems to have slowed down and actually has not fully recovered from the coronavirus pandemic and the shutdowns that we've all been experiencing. So a stimulus proposal is very popular. However, last Sunday, Nancy Pelosi said that unless we pass a stimulus proposal or get a deal made within the next 48 hours, by the end of Tuesday night, that there isn't a good chance that a deal would be passed before the election. So that deadline has come and gone, and Nancy Pelosi and Steven Mnuchin still have been meeting this week to discuss the next stimulus package. Since that deadline passed and she hasn't reached a deal with the Trump administration, where do we stand on a stimulus package and the chances of one happening before the November election? Now, the prospects of getting a deal done before November 3rd on election day are actually getting less and less as time progresses because we are getting a lot closer, and even once a deal is brokered between Pelosi and the Trump administration, they still have to finalize the language and everything else and then vote on in the House and in the Senate, and then it would have to be signed by President Trump. All of that takes time. As the final language is written up and everything else, if it passes in the House of Representatives, it still might have to be changed slightly to pass in the Senate. In an interview with MSNBC, Nancy Pelosi said, "I'm pretty happy. I think we have a prospect for an agreement." So she is optimistic. However, she has been optimistic, it seems like, for weeks now that a deal is going to be reached. And she does seem happy about the prospects of a deal being reached, and I think she should be, as it seems like the Trump administration has basically come up to nearly where she has been asking for all along, her $2.2 trillion number, and they've been making concessions and basically adding to their original proposals to make it closer to what Nancy Pelosi has originally asked for. She hasn't budged from that $2.2 trillion number. It's something I've been saying for months now. When asked if they could reach a deal by the end of this week, Nancy Pelosi said, "I hope so. That's the plan. That's what I would hope. That's the hope. Let me say that. So she used the word hope a bunch of times, and basically at this point, that's kind of all we have is hope that a deal will be reached. Nancy Pelosi's spokesman also said, on several open questions, the Speaker and the Secretary, meaning Steven Mnuchin, Treasury Secretary, and the Secretary called for the committee chairs to work to resolve differences about funding levels and language. Talks with Steven Mnuchin and Nancy Pelosi were going on yesterday, and they will resume again today. They do seem like they are coming closer to a deal, but we've been hearing that for weeks now. The Trump administration has pushed their compromise, as I was saying, closer to about $2 trillion, and it is really close to what Nancy Pelosi, her $2.2 trillion number that she's asked for. One of the concerns as that stimulus package gets closer and closer to that $2.2 trillion number, one of the biggest concerns is, will Senate Republicans get on board even if President Trump and his administration broker a deal with Nancy Pelosi? Well, President Trump does not seem too worried about that prospect. Earlier this week on Fox and Friends, President Trump talked about Mitch McConnell and the Senate Republicans getting on board if a deal can be brokered between his administration and Nancy Pelosi when he said, he'll be on board if something comes. Not every Republican agrees with me, but they will. However, Mitch McConnell warned the White House that even if they do reach a deal between the White House and Nancy Pelosi, that there is a chance that it's not even going to be brought up in the Senate before the November 3rd elections. Right now, they're going through the confirmation hearings of the Supreme Court justice. And so they're busy doing that, and he said, there's a chance that we may not even be able to vote on a stimulus package deal before November 3rd. However, even though he said that it may not be voted on right away, he did say that they will bring it up at some point and they will vote on a deal if there is one that's reached between President Trump and Nancy Pelosi. And he also didn't outright reject a plan that is close to $2 trillion when he said, we'll have to see what it was first. Basically saying, hey, let's see what's in it before I completely just reject something. So there is a chance that at least Mitch McConnell and the Senate Republicans and the Senate would take up a plan if President Trump and Nancy Pelosi can finally reach a deal. As I've said in previous videos, in order for a stimulus package to be passed, first off, the House of Representatives has to go along with it. If Nancy Pelosi goes along with it, it will pass the House of Representatives. We've already seen them pass a couple bills that Nancy Pelosi signed off on. So if she signs off on it, it's good in the House. The question is, will it pass the Senate? The Senate is controlled by Republicans right now. However, as I've said multiple times before, if all of the Democrats in the Senate go along with what Nancy Pelosi agreed to in the House of Representatives, that would give us 47 votes, if all Democrats went along with it, 47 votes in the Senate. They need 60 votes to pass the Senate. So they would need 13 Republicans to sign off on a stimulus package. So if they can get the House on board, President Trump signs off on it and says, hey, yeah, go for it. We're going to do this. This is a deal that I'm backing. Then if they can get all 47 Democrats and 13 Senate Republicans, then they can reach a deal. That's really what I think Mitch McConnell is worried about. Will they even get 13 Republicans that can sign off on a deal? I think if President Trump signs off on a deal, that they will, and they will get those 13 Republicans at least, and possibly more, to sign off on a deal. White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows was interviewed by CNBC and said regarding how close they are to a deal, I want to stress, we're not just down to a difference of language or a few dollars. We still have a ways to go, but I would say that the conversations today were productive enough to continue to have discussions tomorrow. And in addition to this, it does seem evident that President Trump and his administration realize that there are millions of Americans that are hurting. And I think that's one of the reasons why President Trump has been so willing to come up so far from the number that most Senate Republicans were saying like a few weeks ago. They were saying, hey, we don't want to go above $1 trillion. And President Trump saying, hey, I know there's a lot of people in America that are struggling. Let's give them the help that they need, and let's get stimulus checks out to them. Let's get rental assistance. Let's get that unemployment benefit renewed and everything else. So Mark Meadows reiterated this when he said, now that we're 90 days into this, it becomes really incumbent upon us to get something done, and the American people are hurting. And he added, I think the quicker we can make a deal, the better off it is for Americans. And as the polling suggests, 72% of Americans would agree with that and would agree that there is need for more stimulus. Now it's up to our leaders in Washington. The American people want it. Many of the people in Washington want it. But can they actually get a deal that both Nancy Pelosi and the Trump administration and Mitch McConnell and the Senate Republicans can all agree to? That's what we're still waiting for. I think it's going to happen. The question is when. That's really the big question at this point. I think there will be a deal reached at some point, but the question is when. And at this point, nobody knows still when that second stimulus check is going to happen. Steven Mnuchin has said if a stimulus deal is reached and signed by President Trump and passed in the House and the Senate, obviously, then within a week they can send out second stimulus checks. But they have to reach that deal first. Thank you once again for watching. I will continue to keep you up to date on all the latest for the stimulus talk negotiations and the second stimulus check. If you haven't subscribed already, be sure to subscribe. I do appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you again soon.